Something I've really been enjoying exploring on and off the cushion during this retreat is the mindfulness of feelings. And I have been really humbled to notice this really stark difference between what the actual kind of sense experience is, like what I am seeing or tasting or feeling, like tactile sense, and what my mind is proliferating, leading to either an unpleasant feeling, a pleasant feeling, or a neutral feeling. And then noticing how really so many of the afflictions just blossom from there. And so today I wanted to share a bit about my process of working with anger and the unpleasant feelings, and how my developing awareness of unpleasant feelings is really helping me to pull apart the causes of anger and really see that getting angry is quite stupid and counterproductive. So I can look at like a whiteboard and see some black letters on it, or I can look at my computer screen and see some squiggles on it and recognize them as words. And then I have this experience of like the person is like screaming at me, like they are telling me these words and this is how it is. And then I have an unpleasant feeling and I get angry. But the person's not even there. And these words on the screen, I've gotten a little bit more experience going back to them and really looking at like, is this person really screaming? Like, do they have this intention to communicate with me in this way? And usually I don't think so. I think that they are doing their best to try and express what they want to express in a way that's as kind and compassionate as they can do at this moment. And that this interpretation of me hearing it come in this forceful voice is all from my mind. And so this has been really beneficial in helping me to just like pause. And before I respond with my kind of gut like jerk reaction, to just look again and see maybe a little bit more realistically what is trying to be communicated. So I started to work to recognize my feelings, because these feelings of pleasant, unpleasant, and neutral are really difficult for me to actually notice. I can see the emotion after it's arisen usually, but like actually this unpleasant feeling that led to it is really much more elusive for me. So I started to work with it by recognizing the unpleasant physical sensations in my body. So I am considering myself so fortunate to get some leg discomfort after sitting in meditation for a while, because that's really where I could start to notice that, like, here's some sensations, and here's this really powerful urge to like move my leg, but what is the sensation? Why is it, why am I calling this uncomfortable and painful? Why don't I call this normal? Because this happens every time I sit for 45 minutes or an hour. And thankfully it doesn't get too much worse, but it's not getting better. I think as we age, pain increases typically. It doesn't go the other way. And so by looking at how this really was an unpleasant sensation that moved around in my leg, that I had a hard time really pinpointing what it was, where it was in my leg, how kind of deep it was or on the surface, what the actual cause was. And then this mental response of like, you need to move now. This will make you feel better. You can concentrate better if you're not so focused on this sensation in your leg. But that this voice in my mind was so much more urgent than like what the tactile experience was in the leg. So this just helped me see the role that my mind and my mental proliferations plays to exaggerate my unpleasant feelings. And so after working with this a little bit, where I went to was to start in meditations to review moments when I had gotten angry. And this happened a couple times in the kitchen, just these, little small things where I would see a shape and I would see a color and I would discriminate, this was this thing. And then somehow I got angry. But I don't think it was the bag of food sitting on the counter that's making me angry. It's, this process in my mind of like, this is in the wrong place. Somebody did this wrong. Oh my gosh, what are people thinking? Don't people know that this goes here and there and all these places? Thankfully, only a couple people got to be privy to my vocal outburst once. But it's still quite loud in my mind, so it's really something important to work on. Because, maybe some of you have had this experience where before I moved here, I really didn't think that I had an issue with anger. I don't really get in people's face, or I'm not really, super... sometimes I am. I'll say I try not to be. It's not my typical reaction. I'm more of the flight person when someone is angry at me. I try and get away from the situation instead of engage and antagonize. Although I'm sure that plenty of people have had the experience where they're like, I think you were angry when you were saying that to me. And so really noticing, though, how many of my thoughts are about this irritation, annoyance, judgment, has been really beneficial here, so that I can really work with that and stop creating the causes for more anger, because this is how it works. When I get angry and I feed the seeds of anger, then I am watering that, so that's more likely to come up again. And so I started dissecting what was happening when I would walk into the kitchen, see a bag on the shelf, and get angry. And noticing this mental proliferation, I could see really it wasn't the object, it wasn't the person that put the bag there. This is all coming from my own mind. And so, as humbling as it is, and what's the word? It's not overwhelming, but it's maybe it is humbling, a bit embarrassing to see how I've spent so much time blaming others for my anger, and for, I think that I'm right in getting angry because they're doing things that are upsetting and wrong. But really to see that I have responsibility in this. I have the ability to work with this because it's coming from my mind, so I can switch these habits of responding so forcefully to these unpleasant feelings, and develop more patience and more space between the feeling and how I'm reacting to it. And I can really see it kind of as one plus is that looking at the process of how this contact and my mental proliferations has led to anger has helped me to learn about my buttons. Because although I walk around all day with plenty of buttons on the outside, I can be quite blind to them. And so really sitting and looking at what is it that's bothering me about this. I notice, these different ways that it's me interpreting the situation that's really contributing to my unpleasant feeling and subsequent anger. And so if I'm in an interaction with someone and I think that they're not listening to me, that they don't have confidence in what I'm saying, even though I'm totally sure what I'm talking about, they're just not respecting me, they're blowing me off. These are all messages that I'm giving myself, regardless of what the other person, how they're showing up with whatever motivation they have. Venerable reminded us in the Shantideva teaching last week, that is their thing, is how others are showing up. But what my business and what my work is how I respond to that. And so being more cognizant of all these different factors coming together to create this unpleasant feeling, and then that leading to anger, I can see where there's opportunity to, where I can develop some like clues, like, oh, I can feel this. Oh, I hear the story in my head again. That means I need to pause because I'm probably not seeing things clearly. Like, oh, I'm familiar with this line that I keep telling myself that's going on. Let's investigate and see if that's really the situation or whether this is just this like habit that I've been letting propel me for a long time. And so one thing that has been really striking to me and why I think anger is so stupid is because it's totally contradictory to what I'm looking for. When I have an unpleasant feeling and I'm uncomfortable, I want to get rid of it. I want happiness. I am craving to be free from that unpleasant feeling. And yet, anger leads to more unpleasant feelings. I am proliferating in my head. I am really solidifying the moment, the event, the person, the cause of why I'm angry. And this is all just leading to creating more unpleasantness and more anger. And so it's been really interesting to look at that, like, where did this start? Like, sure, eons ago, I'm sure, but that I've spent my whole life really responding to unpleasant situations by creating more causes to experience unpleasantness. And so this has given me a lot of inspiration to be aware of when I am feeling this urge and this angst, when I have this need of like, I need to react right now. That's a good indicator that I need to stop. Whatever I'm doing, I need to actually probably walk out of the room and count to 10, count to 100. Like Shantideva advises us to be like a piece of wood, to take some time to come back to my aspirations to do no harm and to be of benefit. Because if I am responding from this place of kind of angst and thinking that something is going wrong, then I'm going to respond likely very unskillfully and have regret for what I'm doing and just live in contradiction to my values of cultivating compassion and kindness. And we learn over and over again that virtuous actions are the cause of happiness. So anger is completely opposite to that. I think in nature, anger doesn't make anyone happy. It doesn't make the person who is angry happy, and it makes others angry as well. And I've been really appreciating Geshe Tabkela and Geshe Darula's presentations recently, really teaching us how our actions really are our refuge, that we are learning from the Buddha, and he's able to teach us these methods for alleviating our suffering and eliminating the causes for suffering. But we need to put that into practice. And the way that we can start and ensure that we're able to meet this path again and again for as long as it takes to fully awaken and completely eradicate all of our anger and afflictions, we need to engage in virtuous actions. And the more that we do this, the more that we see that we can change our habits and make those small course corrections in how we engage with life, this develops more confidence in the path. So as I've created a little bit more space between my unpleasant feelings and my angry reaction, I see that there's an opportunity to create a little bit more and a little bit more. And that also helps me see that others have this potential as well. That maybe, just like me, they're not acting as skillfully as they would like in the moment, but that they have this potential to grow and to engage in virtue. And perhaps if I can just hang in there and show some kindness, that might inspire a change in their own heart as well. So these situations usually happen pretty suddenly and often take me by surprise. But it's the more that I can practice in these small moments and the more that I go back and review them on the cushion that I can build up my fortitude and my capacity to bring a little bit more pause and a little more clarity when things that are bigger arise, that where it's not just a bag of chips on the shelf, where it's, something that really requires a lot of groundedness and an open heart to be able to navigate so that people do get their needs met and it doesn't just get worse. So, in conclusion, getting angry is really all about me. It's this totally misguided attempt to get rid of unpleasant feelings, and it is completely unproductive and only leads to more. And by just continuing to come back to this practice, I really have appreciated looking at mindfulness of feelings, because it is the root, the stimulus to so many different afflictions. I've seen that the unpleasant feelings aren't as bad as I think they are, and that I don't need to have such a strong aversion or pushback response, but that if I can just ride the wave a little bit, that the feeling is going to change on its own very quickly. And the more I can really work on my attachment to the 8 worldly concerns, because a lot of my negative feelings arise, attachment to praise and criticism, or attachment to praise and reputation, and aversion to being criticized and blamed. So the more I can work with those things, the more I can show up to challenging situations with patience and kindness, and continue to see that there's nothing to grab onto, there's nothing to shove away from, but really what's most important is that I cultivate a kind and wise heart, and that is how we are all going to contribute to peace and harmony here in the smaller community, and then really extending out to whoever we're in contact with.